Welcome to Marseille Nursery. Today we are going to talk about terrariums. Terrariums are tiny ecosystems that we can make in any container where we can imagine what we can place. We can make a Jurassic Park, a jungle, a hut inside a container and imagine anything we want. They can be made in any container. We have this one for example where we place many plants. They can be large, small or medium terrariums. You can make them in metal, clay, glass, hanging, as hanging terrariums, or pear-shaped. There are also round, and today we are going to make an island terrarium. So as I am in Bogota and I miss the sea very much, I will make an island terrarium. And then we are going to give little tricks or tips to make a terrarium. Remember that a terrarium is a small ecosystem where you can create the ambience you want to create. So, to make an island terrarium we are going to choose a bombonera. It is important, as I have told you in previous chapters, the drainage of the plants. We always recommend for terrariums cactus and succulents. Why this kind of plants? Because they are resistant to any environment. Remember that they are fleshy and retain water, so they do not require much watering. As we talked about before, the important thing in the pots that do not have drainage is to apply a little charcoal, which we have here, so that the plants do not rot underneath. We put the charcoal, then a little gravel so that the plants have good drainage. It is very important that we always have 2 layers, charcoal and gravel, or only charcoal, or only gravel. But always when we are going to plant a type of plant that does not have drainage, it is important to put gravel. As I told you, we can imagine whatever we want, and today we are going to make an island, because we want to be on the beach. So the important thing is to have a container, and there we plant several plants. As you can see, they are all succulents that have good roots. Not small pieces, and those things, no. As long as they have good roots, and they are placed in a container, remember that this container has a hole and good drainage. But why? So that the water when it reaches the bottom can evaporate. Here we have already advanced part of the task, which is to make the first container ready. There are people who like to decorate it with different types and kinds of stone. I am going to do it very natural today. I am going to do it with normal soil, that is to say, black soil with fertilizer. Then it is important to get suitable elements for the terrariums. I always have in my hand small spoon, soil, drainage, little things that can help us. Small elements, small tweezers, so that if we must take small plants we can do it from far away or close. Ready? So the first thing to do is to plant the succulent, and we already have it planted. Now we start the process of putting the soil. Here it can be stone, or whatever you want depending on your tastes. Today I want to handle my island as a normal island, as something more natural so that I can feel in it. The important thing is that the plant is always well centered. Always remember to make your terrariums with succulents and cacti. Do not do it with another type of plant, because in that case they will not last. Here we guarantee that it will last, if not a lifetime, at least part of his life for this terrarium environment spaces. These terrariums can be left indoors, but a recommendation: do not leave them outdoors. Why? Because with the glass the sun generates the magnifying glass effect. The magnifying glass effect is that we once burned paper with the sunlight, and what did we do? We took the piece of paper, the piece of glass and the paper burned. What this does is to duplicate the sun's rays, so the important thing is not to leave it in direct sunlight. Then after we have our island well covered, and we realize that it is well centered, we make the process of decoration and cleaning. These two aspects will help us to show the plant that we planted there. As you can see, we are arranging the soil so that everything looks in a very even contour to the maximum. There we have a nice terrarium, for example. If you want to leave it like that we can do it, but I like to put white stones in it, and I will do it to make it different, and I will do it over the plant on the island to decorate it. This also helps to support the plants and of course for decoration. Now, as I want my island, we are going to place something that resembles the sea, and what better than colored sand. This colored sand, the important thing is not to throw it away without any sense, but to place it methodically. These terrariums usually take me almost half a day to make. Today for this program we are doing it as a learning method, but even though we are learning, it is looking very nice. Now we imagine our island, just as I imagined an island. You can imagine a jungle, the family farm, materialize a project, or put what you want, and as they say popularly, the mind is the limit. I am now finishing putting the blue sand, so that it resembles the sea. We make sure that it is well in the environment, very square, and now we are in charge of putting another touch. There are people who put pineapples, there are people who put little boats, there are people who put animals. The important thing is that it is what they want. If you notice, this is a very beautiful terrarium to give as a gift, to keep in your home, or for you to move when you are bored at home and say, I want to go to my island, because there you have your private island and you have nothing to complain about. Important that these terrariums, especially watering, should be done with syringes, directly to the plant, or with atomizer. Remember, this is a moderate watering. Every 8 days you can do it and water the terrarium. Always with atomizer that looks nice and with water. Here you have a beautiful terrarium from the Marseille nursery. This is one of the examples we have. We have everything you want from terrariums. Here as we see it, in this learning process of making a terrarium, it is important to remember how to create the right conditions for our plants. The first thing is to choose the right type of plant for the terrarium. Always the best ones will be succulents, which will be the subject of our next program, or cacti. And we already talked about those in the previous program. We create the environmental conditions for the plants to last. But what are the adequate conditions? That they have good drainage, that they have an adequate environment for them, that they have good soil, that it is fertilized, that it is not compacted, and that it is not muddy. Also that we have planted complete, healthy plants. It is not that they are parts, or the so-called gajitos, but that they are developed so that they are beautiful and last in the terrariums. Finally, water, especially every 8 days, and then love them very much, because with the terrariums of Vivero Marsella you can imagine, create what you want, and that they always accompany you. As with all plants, we will not be exempt from pests in plants, usually. As I had spoken of succulents and cactus, pests are not the moth or insects. Pests that give are the famous fungi that are those spots that come out on the skin of the plants. And the best thing for that is always put, at least once a month, the so-called fungicide to prevent damage to the templates and make us terrariums last a lifetime. Remember, in the next program we will talk about succulents and take advantage of some reminders for those who need it. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.